If these Trump tariffs go ahead, what will be the impact on Canadian small and medium-sized enterprises? We're joined by Dan Kelly of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Dan, great to see you. I guess some people might think, well, these small companies, they don't tend to be big exporters, so perhaps the impact will be limited.
Yeah, that sadly is wrong. I wish that these businesses would be exempted from the potential weight of the tariffs, but that's not the case. About 20% of my members, small and medium-sized companies, are involved in exporting outside of Canada, but about 50% of them are involved in importing from the United States in one way or another. And so, of course, I've heard from a few that are exporters that are deeply worried, but the thing that I've heard far more is worry from those that import about countervailing duties from Canada that then would have a huge impact on local small businesses, but everybody is going to be impacted just by the economics effect of a tariff war between Canada and the U.S.
That's interesting, because, of course, their input costs would go up if there was duties slapped on stuff coming from America.
That's it. I had a food products importer reach out to me last night in near panic, saying that they're worried about, especially given that they supply the large grocery chains in Canada, that their prices are limited by the big chains. If Canada slaps some countervailing tariffs in response to the U.S. action, that could mean the failure of his business. That's how profound this is.
You think this country, I mean, the politicians in Canada do seem to be taking this seriously. Well, at least they're doing their favorite thing. We're having meetings and full and fair consultations. But, well, what can they do at this stage? But you think this is not an idle threat by the U.S. president-elect?
Look, I think we have to treat it as if it is. Yes, this could be an initial salvo. Certainly Trump has not spared some degree of bravado in initial communications, and then what happens is somewhat less than that. But we can't afford to treat this cavalierly or believe that this is not going to happen. I think that would be a foolish policy on our part. But we can't panic either. We have to be calm and confident in responding to this, and of course, use all of the tools that Canada has available to it. We have to promote ourselves properly. But if we do respond with our own tariffs, the prospect of this escalating will take out a ton of small and medium-sized companies in the process. This is just so critical, both for Canadian exporters and the hundreds of thousands of small firms that are dependent on U.S. imports for retail and all sorts of other sectors. You remember the first Trump presidency, he put tariffs on things like steel and aluminum. Canada managed to get exclusions in some cases. So, I mean, clearly the two nations were so entangled. Trump will feel pressure from U.S. businesses not to disrupt trade. For sure, and look, we have several other levers too. I think the good neighbor policy it will kick in at some stage along the way, recognizing that this is mutually destructive. But it could be really messy until that happens. So we need to make sure that we're taking this seriously, that we don't go cap in hand, but we sure can't afford to ignore this or take this lightly. Look, there was pretty good provincial-federal coordination during the last round of trade negotiations with the U.S. I suspect that that'll be the same on this round. There's pretty good integration between businesses and business associations and governments in raising this. But we need to take this seriously. We need to act now. We also have to look at some of the things that, whether we believe them or not, we have to take seriously some of the things that the president is talking about and look at what we can do to try to satisfy that or tick whatever boxes are necessary to keep this important trading relationship going.
Before we let you go, Dan, I'm not sure if we've talked to you about this, but this 2-month GST holiday, we've heard concerns expressed it's going to put an admin burden, a bureaucratic burden on small businesses, calculating what's exempt for how long, etc.
It is a hot mess. Look, for the restaurant setting, I think it's reasonably straightforward. Most of their products go from GST-able to exempt. But for retailers, especially mixed retailers, this is as confusing as sin. I talked to a hobby store owner that says, okay, the model airplane that he sells, it's a kid's toy, so that should be exempt. But what about the paint and the glue that holds it together? We've asked, and Ottawa even now is not able to give us answers as to which products on the micro level are going to be taxable or not. And a business might have 1,000 items and have to go through the list and make individual categorizations of which ones now are not to be taxed during that period. If they make a mistake, the Canada Revenue Agency in April or May send them a bill for back taxes plus penalties and interest. So the stakes are high. Businesses are trying to implement this at their busiest time. Providing tax relief is always good, but to do it with a huge administrative bill to small businesses, that's the part that has not been thought through.
Dan, thank you very much indeed.
Anytime.